One of the questions that people have frequently is when they hear the words life insurance, they will think, oh, this must be a scam of some sort. Or they'll automatically think, infinite banking, how can you use your life insurance policy as a banking system? And they'll think this has to be a scam. Mike, I'm going to ask you, why do you think we get this reaction from people?
Well, I think it's not taught enough. I mean, it's been around for a long time, but we haven't heard about it. So learning about it takes time. But as far as being a scam's something that you don't get anything back from. With life insurance, at least you're getting a death benefit back with life insurance. So that right there throws it out of the scam factor. And the more you learn about it, the more it benefits you. If you listen to what it's called whole life insurance. It's not death benefit, it's whole life insurance. You can use it throughout your whole life. And I don't think people realize that. But is it a scam? No.
Hello, Money Multipliers. Welcome back to another episode of the Money Multiplier podcast. I'm your host, Hannah Kessler, and we ask ourselves, do our dollars make sense? So thanks for joining us for another weekly episode. I'm here every Tuesday. A podcast episode launches and drops live. So we're back. And today we're tackling one of the biggest debates in personal finance when it comes to whole life insurance. Is it a scam or is it a secret weapon? And you've probably heard it all before. Whole life is a ripoff. You should be buying in term and investing the rest. But let's be real. People who buy term, do they actually invest the rest? Think about it. But what if the truth is that the wealthy have been using the same exact strategy for generations to build and protect their wealth? So in this episode, I brought in Sandra and Mike Fry, and they're going to be breaking down the misconceptions, the math, and the mindset behind the infinite banking concept, what I call the money multiplier method. And we're going to learn why so many people misunderstand it and why most financial advisors aren't telling you, and how you can properly structure a policy to take control of your cash flow, eliminate debt, and really build generational wealth. So Mike and Sandra, they are a wealth of knowledge. They were actually one of my dad's first ever clients back in 2013 when dad started teaching this back in 2012. So they have over 20 policies within their own portfolio. They are 3 generations deep into this now with themselves, their children, and now their grandbabies doing this. So I really want y'all to hear their perspective, because even when they first got into this, Sandra was on board, but Mike really was not. It was the same thing in my family situation where my dad was on board, but my mama, it took her 2 years to fully understand and grasp this concept and this different way of thinking. So keep an open mind as we go through this, and I want you to hear a little bit about what they're saying. So let's get into the episode.
Hi, everybody. We are Mike and Sandra Fry with Banking with the Frys, and we work with the Money Multiplier. Mike and I have been using infinite banking in our own life for 12 years, almost 13 years now. And we talk to clients every day, and often people will come up with the same questions about infinite banking. And we're going to touch on some of those questions today, just to help everybody in their understanding of infinite banking. One of the questions that people have frequently is when they hear the words life insurance, they will think, oh, this must be a scam of some sort. Or they'll automatically think, infinite banking, how can you use your life insurance policy as a banking system? And they'll think this has to be a scam. Mike, I'm going to ask you, why do you think we get this reaction from people?
Well, I think it's not taught enough. I mean, it's been around for a long time, but we haven't heard about it. So learning about it takes time. But as far as being a scam's something that you don't get anything back from. With life insurance, at least you're getting a death benefit back with life insurance. So that right there throws it out of the scam factor. And the more you learn about it, the more it benefits you. If you listen to what it's called whole life insurance. It's not death benefit, it's whole life insurance. You can use it throughout your whole life. And I don't think people realize that. But is it a scam? No.
And what would you say is the difference between traditional whole life and a policy that's designed specifically for infinite banking? Or do you want me to answer that question?
Well, basically, a traditional whole life policy has base only. So basically, you're getting a death benefit. When we design an infinite banking policy, we design it so it has cash value right away, within 30 days. So we have the base, but we also have what we call PUA rider, which helps build the cash value right away. A whole life traditional policy does not have that.
Yeah, and once you say, like, with a traditional whole life policy, you can eventually borrow against the policy.
Yeah, years down the road. It does build, a traditional whole life does build cash value. It just doesn't do it in the early years. Now, when you've had that policy for 20 years, yeah, you're going to have a lot of cash value in there. But we design an infinite banking policy to create that cash value within 30 days.
Right, and you'll have more with the specially designed policy. You're going to have more cash value. Even 20 years later, you're going to have more cash value than what you would have if it was a traditional life policy. Sure. Wouldn't you say? So one of the top questions we get with when people are talking about using infinite banking or creating a banking system, they will be weighing the odds between whether should I put my funds into this whole life policy and create a banking system, or should I take my money and invest it in something that's going to create more income for myself, like the stock market or something else. The thing to remember is creating your own banking system is not an either-or situation. Everybody should be in the business of banking.
Well, Nelson says that. They should be in two types of business, the banking business and then whatever your job is.
Yeah, so we should all be in the business of banking. So you want to create your banking system and then use your funds that you're borrowing against your policy and put them into the investment that you want to invest in to create you more passive income. Now you're earning, dividends on your funds inside the policy, and you're earning your interest from your investment. You think that's a great idea?
Yeah. The more times you use your money, the more money you make. So you want to put your money in the policy first and then take it out and do your investments. I'm not saying not to do your investments. Just put your money through the policy first and then do your investments.
Yeah, it's not an either-or. It's not an either-or situation. It's an and situation. Do this and do the other thing that you want to do. Create your own banking system and put in the swimming pool for the kids. Put braces on your kids' teeth. Invest in cryptocurrency. Invest in the stock market. You can do all those things. And you can do it all from your own banking system first. Sometimes people will bring that up and then they'll say, well, I'm talking to my financial advisor. And my financial advisor said I should do this or this. Well, the thing to remember is financial advisors are thinking from an investment standpoint. They're thinking about how you can invest your funds. An infinite banking policy or a policy structured for infinite banking is not an investment. It's not an investment.
No, yes, it is in one word. It's an investment in yourself, okay? Because nobody knows you better than yourself. So you got to protect the things that are important to you. So by buying a life insurance policy, you're investing in yourself. But as far as it being an investment for how do I want to say that?
Well, it goes back to the either or question. Your financial advisors are thinking investments. Create your banking system and do your investments. It's not, you don't have to do one or the other.
Well, infinite banking is a lifestyle. That's the best word I can say about it. It's the way you want to live. And it's
not a habit. It's not.
Yeah, it's a lifestyle. I mean, everything me and Sandy do goes in a policy before we spend money. So you want to start using your policy as your bank and get away from the traditional bank. Now, does that happen overnight? No, it takes time. But you got to start somewhere. Me and Sandy started with one policy, and we've grown it. So you just need to start.
It's not a hobby. It's not something you're just going to do on the weekends. This is a lifestyle. You want to commit to it. You want to create your banking system, and you want to use it for everything that you do in your life. Again, put in the pool for the kids, take vacations, invest in things that create more income for yourself. So, you don't want to think of it as something I'm just going to do part-time, or I'm just going to dabble in a little bit on the weekends. It's not that hobby. It's a lifestyle.
Hey, sorry to interrupt the episode here, but I want to take a quick break. If what you're hearing today has made you curious about infinite banking, how it works, I want you to go watch my free presentation. In it, I walk you through the same steps that my family took to pay off $984,000 of debt in 39 months, and how we've been able to recycle and recapture every single dollar since then. This isn't theory. This is real. I mean, this is what the wealthy have been using over 200 years to keep the money within the family. This is literally where banks, conventional banks, store a boatload of their dollars at. And it's the same process that we've helped thousands of families across the country put into action. So go to themoneymultiplier.com/presentation and see for yourself how you can start taking control of your money today. All right, let's get back into the episode.
Hey, Mike, if somebody came to you and they were really concerned, they're talking to you about infinite banking, they're really concerned about the guaranteed rate of return, or, that they're comparing the guaranteed rate with the policy with what they can earn in another investment or a high yield savings account, something like that, what would you say to them? How would you explain to them very simply, why they shouldn't be as concerned about that?
Well, first off, it's not an investment, so it's not going to give you the rate of return an investment will. It's a lifestyle. It's about control of your finances. So you're still earning that guaranteed rate of return and the dividend at the end of the year, but you have control over your money now. So that's more important than that rate of return and that dividend, in my opinion. Take the money out of your policy and invest it in the stock market or in a personal investment, whatever you want to do, and earn your rate of or your higher rate of return there. But you're taking back control, and that's the important part.
Yeah, and this is a good point where we can start talking a little bit about our story, because that's what it was about for us. Mike and I had a mountain of debt that we wanted to get rid of. We were really at a point where it was something had to change, and infinite banking came into our life at that point, and we were unsure. We had the same questions that everybody else has about infinite banking. We asked the same question: is it a scam? Why would I do this? What, life insurance? I've heard about this, but not heard about using it this way.
Honestly, I can say it was a little scary.
Yeah, same questions that everybody else has when they get started the first time. And we started into it with the idea that we wanted to pay off debt. We were actually very hyper-focused on paying off our debt. We didn't know how else we would use the system. It was about paying off this huge debt that we had. And we started with one policy. That was back in 2013. And Mike, do you want to talk a little bit about that? I mean, when we started, Mike wasn't really on board. I learned about it through a friend, and I brought it home to Mike, and I was like, I'd like to do this. And he wasn't really on board with me when we started doing it.
Well, I never heard about it either. I'm like some of you guys. I never heard about this. When I heard life insurance, my first thought was death benefit. And I want to spend money on death benefit when I'm having trouble paying my bills. I didn't see that. But I have faith in Sandy, and she was on board with it. So we actually did buy a $10,000 policy. That's what we started with. Well, she took our savings to buy that. So when we started paying off the debt, which was a credit card, the first thing, I paid real close attention. And I seen what was happening. We was actually paying 17.4% on that credit card. Well, now I'm putting that 17.4% back in my policy every month, and that clicked. So I started something with intention, and I started paying attention more and more. And pretty soon we ended up buying a second policy, a third, and kept on going because it's an everyday thing. We look at our infinite banking every day. It's just part of our life. And I think you have to have that intention if you're going to build a banking system to handle your finances throughout your whole family. Now, me and Sandy's been doing it for a little over 12 years, and we actually have 3 generations doing it. But you can't go in this thinking, oh, I'm just going to put my money in the policy and forget it. It's something you're going to work at, but the rewards from it are great.
So when we first got started, we got ourselves started, and then we helped our kids get started, and now we have grandchildren, and we have policies on our grandchildren. And just this past year, our grandchildren took their first policy loans to buy a couple small things that they wanted, it was kind of fun to go through that process for them and help them learn about borrowing from our family bank. And but yeah, when going back to what Mike said, when we first started, it was a policy on me, the very first policy. It was a $10,000 annual premium. We had some rental property, and we had this emergency fund where I had $10,000 saved up that if something happened with the rentals, we had the money to go in there and do whatever it was we needed to do. Thinking back now, $10,000 probably wouldn't have done a whole lot, but at the time it sounded really good. We sounded like we felt like we were protecting ourselves a little bit. After starting our infinite banking system, and several years into it, we still had rental property, and we actually had a rental that we live in Texas. So the air conditioning system, the central air conditioning system, went out of the home, the property, and we ended up having to install a completely new central air system. That actually cost us a little more than $10,000. Thinking back, that would have wiped out my emergency fund at back in the day, pre-IBC days for us. And now with it, I was able to borrow directly from my own banking system and pay for that new air conditioning system, and then pay myself back with interest instead of having to worry or think about I couldn't have quite covered that situation when it happened.
Well, here's a new way of looking at that. We actually earned money by putting that air conditioning system in. We earned in our family, the minimum interest rate is 12%. So we actually put that 12% back in our pocket instead of giving it to the conventional bank.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, some people think, I'm putting $10,000 annually into this policy, and they may worry about what they're getting out of it. First year with the policy, you're not going to be able to borrow dollar for dollar, but over time, you're going to be able to borrow more against the policy than what you actually put into it. And just my story there about, having to replace that central air unit and that central air conditioning system shows you that later on we were able to borrow against our own policies and put that into the system.
Well, yeah, there was way more enough in that policy to do that air conditioner. I mean, it didn't even clean the policy out. We just took out what we needed to pay for the air conditioner.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, we did other things as well to that property, so that wasn't the extent of it, but Joe was just comparing, the initial investment of our first policy with, how we ended up using it later. So, and I want to touch on this question too, because this comes up quite often with us. People will ask about, well, do I have to pay back policy loans? And once I borrow against my banking system, do I need to pay back the policy loans? What if I don't? What if I choose not to? My thought is, if you're truly using this as a banking system, you want to pay back your policy loans. And you want to pay back your policy loans because you want to be able to use that money again. So you want to put your funds back into your banking system so that you can turn around and use it again the next time something happens. Just like with that air conditioning unit that I was talking about replacing, we paid back that policy loan. So those funds are in there so we can turn around and use them again if we need to. We have more than one property. Air conditioning system could go out of another property. So
I hope not.
I hope not too, but you just don't know. But we're, having this type of banking system set up, people always say, well, hope for the best, but prepare for the worst. And IBC helps you in that regard. You're always going to hope for that you're not going to run into those situations, but you're prepared if you do. Wouldn't you say, Mike?
I agree.
Mike, I'm going to ask you this one last question before we tell everybody goodbye. When you're talking to people on the phone, and I know we've just actually discussed this topic, but when you're talking to people on the phone, what do you wish that other people and other families understood about infinite banking that would help them change the way they think about money?
Well, for me, it's generational. It's not just going to help you. It's going to help your kids, your grandkids, and generations you might never meet. The thing is, though, you have to educate your kids and your grandkids. Me personally, I think infinite banking is for the generational wealth. And, me and Sandy, we actually have policies on our grandkids. And that's the important part for us now. We're building a legacy for them and their kids and their grandkids, which we'll probably never meet. But it all started with me and Sandy. So we're building that legacy. And I think that, to me, is the most important, is that you're doing something for your entire family. In my opinion, I think that's the best. I
agree with that. And that topic, actually, the generational wealth topic, was kind of the basis behind when I wrote a children's book recently called The Forever Tree. And it's about love and legacy. And it's about building that legacy for your family for future generations. It is a children's book, though, but I think adults will enjoy it as well. And it is currently available on Amazon. It is called The Forever Tree. And
I guess have a good day, guys. Thanks for watching today. If you want to talk to us one-on-one, you can reach us at bankingwiththefries.com, and you all have a good day.
I told y'all, what a powerful conversation and just a powerful dynamic duo that Mike and Sandra are. So hopefully today's episode helped clear up some of the noise around whole life insurance, the infinite banking concept, and showed you why it's not a scam, but it's a strategy. I mean, think about it. The number one purchasers of whole life insurance in the world are conventional banks. Go Google BOLI, B-O-L-I, it stands for bank-owned life insurance. And so think about it. Why are banks doing this and buying up all of these whole life policies? No, they're not buying term. They're not buying IULs. They're buying whole life insurance. Why are these big banks doing all of this? And it's listed as right underneath their tier one assets as number two. Number one is cash. Number two is cash value whole life insurance on their assets pages. And so just think about it. And really, I'm not here to reinvent the wheel. I'm just going to mimic mimic and copy and imitate what these elite and wealthy people have been doing for generations and generations. And when the policy is designed the right way, it becomes your family's private banking system for life. Not even just your life, but for your children, their children, their children's children. I mean, seriously, this is what it's about, creating that family empire and keeping the money within the family. And, don't change anything that you're doing. If you're an investor, you like stocks, you like real estate, don't change what you're doing. All we're saying is where the money is held and where the money goes first. So, if you really want to get deeper into the infinite banking concept, how it works, go watch our presentation. If you go to themoneymultiplier.com/presentation, it will take you right there to the 90-minute breakdown of how we're doing this, why we even want to implement this, and what even is this whole world all about? Why have I never heard about this before? Yet it's been around longer than our tax code's even been here. So keep an open mind as you really go through this journey of learning about money, learning about becoming your own banker. And if you like this episode, hit the follow button, share it with a friend, and leave a review. I want to hear from y'all. I want you guys to ask me questions because nothing's off limits. I'm here. I want to help support y'all. And if it helps, I really want to reach more people of how they can truly take back the control of their money. So until next time, remember, it's not about how much you make. It's all about how much you keep and what you control. I'll see y'all next week in a new episode. Bye, y'all. Thank you for tuning in to another episode. Hey, if you liked this content, click right here. It will take you to last week's episode. I'm here every single Tuesday. I'll catch you money multipliers next week. See you then.